Um, First of all, good afternoon. And for our friends down in Mexico that might be joining us, buenas tardes. My name is Tom Murray. I'm with the Pollution Prevention Division in the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in Washington, D.C. And I'm joined today by Dr. Bridget Williams, who is the outreach lead for our Design for the Environment program, also here at US EPA in Washington, D.C. I want to first start off by thanking the Commission for Environmental Cooperation for sponsoring this webinar, especially Simonetta Ferrante and Benjamin Teitelbaum. We thank you for doing this. Hopefully, this will be one of several of these types of webinars where we can talk to the automotive industry in particular and those associated with that sector on a variety of issues that we feel are important to you. Today we're going to be talking about some of the EPA voluntary environmental programs. We call them sometimes public-private partnership activities that are all focused on the manufacturing sector. And I'm going to start it off by talking about some of the programs that we have had in place for some time now, and then I'll turn the webinar over to Bridget, and she'll talk to us about some of the Design for the Environment efforts. I'd like to start our story by talking about the audience that we typically deal with on a daily basis, and that audience for much of our program here are the small to medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. And you can see from this particular slide that the reason why we deal with these small to medium-sized enterprises is because they really do need a lot of technical assistance. Many of them, obviously, as you well know, are very small companies down within the supply chain dealing with a variety of different issues that you see in the clouds here. And I think some of those issues are expanding, and with each coming year there are new things that they have to deal with, and they are oftentimes looking for technical assistance from a variety of different sources, not only industry but also from the federal government and the state governments. So that's primarily where we focused our attention. The first thing that I want to talk a bit about is a program that many of you have probably heard me talk about in the past. It's a program that we got started some 10 or 12 years ago, focusing on those small to medium-sized enterprises. The logo on your left there, the blue logo, is a logo for the National Institute of Standards and Technology Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program here in the United States. And it was back in about 2003 or so that we set up an agreement with them, we being EPA, to bring together a lot of the technical assistance that they had been doing for many, many years with small to medium-sized enterprises and lean manufacturing and such. And we basically took our pollution prevention activities and best practices and melded those together into a program that we call the Green Suppliers Network. Now, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program in the United States is quite large, has quite a bit of breadth. As you can see on this schematic here, there are what we call MEP centers in every state of the United States. And it is on their backbone that we basically provide technical assistance to the manufacturing base. We have had situations in the past where we have actually taken center technical assistance directors and experts and actually provided training in Mexico to help with the lean and clean activities of the Green Suppliers Network to help build some infrastructure in Mexico. But here in the United States, we rely almost exclusively on this network to provide the technical services. The Green Suppliers Network, we like to think of it as a decisive step in the path to sustainability. everybody these days is talking about sustainability, and this is one step that people can take to, especially manufacturers, to help them get there. Basically, as I mentioned, it expands the traditional lean definition of waste that we've been working with for many, many years to include environmental considerations, and so you might think of it as lean and clean. And it's also hands-on training. It is people, technical assistance providers that go onto the factory floor, work with the manufacturers and their folks on the factory floor to help them learn to see a variety of different lean opportunities and environmental opportunities, and then to customize solutions for that manufacturer that will basically lead them towards sustainability, make them better environmental performers, help them operate more efficiently. And it also is a way of improving supply chain relationships between them and the customers that they provide their services and products to. An offshoot of our earlier efforts, and this is an organization that many of you on the phone know about, you're members of, is the Suppliers Partnership for the Environment. And this got started way back at the beginning of our discussions on lean and clean. You can see by this slide all of the various organizations that have come together under this banner. You'll also notice that NIST is on there as well as EPA. We are liaisons to this organization, and by liaison we provide webinars like this where we can share our tools and our various databases, etc., with industry. This particular organization is now anchored by Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors, and more recently just brought on Subaru, Nissan, Hyundai, and Honda as the original equipment manufacturers. But the real power of this group is the fact that at one table you have small to medium-sized enterprises and original equipment manufacturers that can deal with and discuss a variety of different environmental issues. So this group meets on a quarterly basis. It's also the foundation for work that we're now doing through the CEC in Mexico, and also beginning conversations in Canada to green the automotive supply chain. And for you on the phone that are not familiar with the Suppliers Partnership, I invite you to take a look at their website, and you'll see the web address at the bottom there on the bottom right of the screen. I think if you're interested in learning more about it, you can find information there, and I would guess that the opportunity is always open for you to come to a meeting to see how this particular organization operates. The real value, though, even though we begin to see better efficiencies and environmental efficiencies by bringing together lean and clean, the real value is the cost savings that companies or manufacturers realize by going through this particular process. This is just a snapshot in time of 166 reviews that we had done at this time under the Green Suppliers Network. And I just put this up here to show the two underlined figures there. Basically, for companies that are only doing lean, you can see that for these particular companies as a whole, we're saving about $41 million each year. When you begin to blend into that the environmental opportunities, you almost double that. And so the benefits of bringing the two together are a real cost benefit for companies. I'm going to come back to this slide in a little bit when I talk about another extension of what we're doing, and I think you'll see that we can add even more value to these numbers. Just a couple of examples of the Green Suppliers Network. I mentioned that we focus on the small to medium-sized enterprises, but in some cases, original equipment manufacturers have wanted to try it out themselves before providing it to their small to medium-sized suppliers. This is just a slide from Steelcase Furniture, one of the largest manufacturers of business furniture in the world, who decided to try the Green Suppliers Network on one of their processes. This turned out to be a powder coating process, and you'll see from their experience that they were able to see a savings realized, and a savings of 80% less water use, 60% less energy used, 90% reduction in waste from this particular process, and also a reduction in the amount of chemicals needed for the process. And at the same time, they were able to save $1 million a year, and spending only one-third as much on their products. Steelcase took this information. They've done two things. One is they've taken it globally to all of their plants around the world on this particular process so that they can benefit as well. And they also then took it to their supply chain so that their small suppliers could benefit as well. Here's another example in Hebron, Kentucky, where Green Suppliers Network was done again. Assessment was done again at a very large company, MAG IAS, in this particular situation, and one recommendation from one process realized for them $3 million a year just from one particular improvement, and you can see what that meant in terms of future sales for them as well. So it's a concept that seems to work quite well. A lot of companies have been using the Green Suppliers Network and continue to do so. But this journey to sustainability doesn't sit still very long, and a lot of companies out there found that they needed something different, better, more expanded. And so we basically responded to that with a new framework that we call the E3, or Economy, Energy, and the Environment. And basically at the core of E3 is the Green Suppliers Network, Lean and Clean. But what we have done is we have reached here in the United States to a variety of other federal agencies, all of whom are working with small to medium-sized enterprises on sustainability efforts, and we've simply brought those together. So you can see at the bottom of the screen there, of course, we've always worked with Department of Commerce, with NIST, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, but we've also added now the Department of Energy, the Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the Small Business Administration. So all of those agencies now are working together at the federal level to expand this Lean and Clean to something bigger. We like to think of E3 as a model. It's not a program. We call it sometimes a framework, where we can actually bring together people, manufacturers, utilities, local governments, and the federal resources I mentioned. And it's a way of actually communities investing in their local manufacturing base, addressing sustainability issues, and helping those communities and those manufacturers grow. It's a novel concept that has a very simple concept, and that is that the less money that manufacturers spend on waste, the more money they have to spend on hiring new employees, adopting new innovations, or expanding markets. One example of that is a small company in San Antonio, Texas, that found, having had an E3 assessment conducted at their facility, that they were spending entirely too much money on energy. After responding to the recommendations from E3, they brought that in check, and they were actually able to triple their workforce over the course of about 6 months. So again, a very simple concept that can have a significant value to manufacturers. You can see on this slide here how the framework basically works. You can see all of the different federal agencies in the United States and what they bring to the party in terms of various programs that they have out in our states. And the services on the right is basically what is provided to the company. So you get a Lean and Clean assessment, a full plant energy audit, a greenhouse gas emissions evaluation. There's training provided through workforce boards from the Department of Labor, small business counseling through our Small Business Administration, implementation support from our MEP system, and we've even done some safety reviews for ergonomics and things of that nature from our Department of Labor Occupational Safety and Health Administration. But the real power of E3 is in the local community. And I just wanted to throw this slide up as just one example of that. This is the state of Alabama. I think we may have a couple of people from Alabama on the webinar this afternoon. Basically, what the state of Alabama did was take the E3 framework and they applied it to their local communities. And the people that you see on this slide are the various community organizations in Alabama that came together and are now working together to help the manufacturing base in that state. Alabama has taken this framework and they have basically adopted it as a statewide exercise. So all of those organizations come together, they work with the local manufacturing base, and then they basically provide to those companies what we like to think of as a tune-up. Through the framework and using our manufacturing extension partnership program and other technical assistance providers, we help companies, some of which we're moving them from survivability to sustainability, and as we work with them on a continuous improvement kind of operation, we take them from basic sustainability up into situations where they free up enough capital to become more innovative, expand their markets, hire more people, et cetera, et cetera. We've been doing this now under E3 for about 18 months, and it seems to be having a very positive impact in all of the various areas around the country where it's now operating. Benefits for manufacturers are pretty straightforward. I've mentioned the cost savings. It has, for many manufacturers, increased their competitiveness, created jobs, and continues to create jobs or helps companies retain jobs. And it also provides access to a variety of technical and financial resources, not only those that might be available, say, through the Small Business Administration, but also financial resources in the form of rebates from local utilities as companies begin to upgrade their energy usage. Just a couple quick slides. I just put these up here to show the return on investment. Each company that basically becomes part of the Green Suppliers Network or E3, for the most part, each company does pay a modest amount of resources for the assessment. It's kept very low because of the way it's subsidized in the United States. But you'll see on this slide in Columbus for 6 plants, and this is just a slide on the energy audit that was done. They basically predicted that these companies would realize $1.7 million a year, but the main point here is that that return would be within basically just over a year. And the same thing holds true for carbon dioxide for these particular companies. So again, a 1.4-year return on the investment, I think, is very acceptable. And then I wanted to bring you back to this slide. I promised that I would do that just to show you by doing an E3 assessment where we do a much more expansive energy audit, and again, sort of predicting what the results would be if we looked at 166 companies that we had earlier. Department of Energy basically said that we would probably see another $40 million per year. So again, we're now tripling the lean benefits. So by doing this, the value to the companies becomes much more substantial. North Carolina is another state in the United States that has adopted E3. This is just a quick snapshot from that state, showing the number of manufacturers that are involved in the E3 effort, the number of assessments that have been made, and you can see it's really starting to grow there. We have West Virginia in the United States also has adopted it as a state, and we have actual E3 activities now going on in about 15 or 16 states throughout the United States. I'm going to ask Bridget to get ready because this is my last slide, and then she's going to move over to her presentation. But this is just a slide of the E3 website, www.e3.gov. You'll find more information here about the effort, more information about various programs around the country that have adopted it, and it also provides a link to a variety of different resources that we don't have time today to talk about. But I invite you to take a look at that website and provide us any comments or questions you might have from that. So now, I'm going to ask Bridget to take my seat and continue with the presentation on the DFE program.
Thank you, Tom. Oh dear. There we go. Thank you, Tom, for that introduction. So today I'll be talking about our Design for the Environment programs. Design for the Environment is a sister program to E3, and there we go. We have three programs. Today I'll be talking to you about two of them. The first one is our Alternatives Assessment Program, and basically, this program is addressing chemicals that have been identified by EPA action plans and work plans. We'll talk a little bit about the criteria for these assessments, and I will discuss something called the growing community of practice in this area. Additionally, we have a second program, our Safer Product Labeling Program, and this is basically where companies come to us with their product, and if their product meets our criteria, they're allowed to use our label. And we'll discuss the requirements for that, the value of the label a little bit, and some interesting things that have come out of this program. I also want to mention a third program that we have. We do work on life cycle assessments as well, but I will not have time to talk about those today. So alternatives assessments. Broadly, an alternatives assessment is a process for identifying and comparing potential chemical and non-chemical alternatives that can be used as substitutes to replace priority chemicals or technologies. Now, this is a broad definition and includes non-chemical alternatives. At DFE, we are conducting chemical alternatives assessments. Basically, we're looking at chemicals that are potential alternatives to chemicals currently in use. The first step is to convene stakeholders. So anyone who's involved in a chemical, whether it's manufacturing or the chemical itself or goods with that chemical, everyone is welcome to be involved in this process. After we convene the stakeholders, then we identify potential alternatives. The key here is that the alternatives not only have to basically mimic the chemistry, but they also have to be functional and work. Then from there, we identify the hazards posed by these potential alternatives, and this includes human health effects and environmental and fate effects. And then afterwards, we basically compose a report, we create a report, and we make all of the data collected available to the stakeholders and the community for use in making their decisions. To date, these are our current alternatives assessments. The first one, pretty much the whole process has been completed. We're just waiting for some combustion testing. This is for TBBPA. The second one, NP and NPE, nonphenol and nonphenol ethoxylates, that report was just released in May 2012 and can be found on our website. NPs and NPEs are surfactants that are commonly found in detergents. And right now, the next two, bisphenol A and decabromodiphenyl ether, those two, we will be releasing the draft reports, hopefully sometime soon. stay tuned on that, and they will be updated on our website. The one I really want to highlight for you today is our alternatives assessment on certain phthalates. This alternatives assessment was kicked off in August of last year. We had a kickoff meeting, and over 300 people representing industry, NGOs, trade groups, and the government who basically have signed on to this partnership participate at that meeting. A scope of the partnership was agreed upon, and the alternatives assessment is now being conducted for 8 phthalates that have been identified on EPA's action plan. Right now, we're in the process of compiling the list of potential alternatives to those 8 phthalates. That list should be coming out soon, hopefully by the end of this summer. At the moment, about 100 have been identified, and as you can imagine, that's quite a few. There will be some duplicates in terms of trade names, and so that number may drop a little bit. And the last one is the flame retardant hexabromocyclododecane, HBCD, and that's found in insulation boards primarily. And the draft report hopefully will be coming out fall of this year. So in the alternatives assessments, we look at 17 human health and environmental endpoints, and maybe a couple more if they're relevant. These endpoints include those listed on the screen. So CMRs, if they're PBTs, if they are bioaccumulate. We also look at respiratory sensitization, aquatic toxicity, persistence, etc. Basically, we're taking a snapshot of these chemicals and determining any hazards that may be associated with them. This is a sample of one of our alternatives assessments. This was a flame retardants in furniture foam. It came out in 2005, and this is, you can see how we present the data. On the left-hand side is the company, and then as you go across under chemical, the alternative may not just be one chemical. As you probably know, functionality can be achieved with multiple chemicals, and is almost necessary sometimes. So the hazard profiles for these 3 alternatives then are on the right-hand side. Wherever we have data, those squares are the colored squares. Whenever data was not present and we had to model or basically, use our best estimate, that is in the italics and in black. L means low hazard, and M means medium, and H is a high hazard. And the thresholds in our criteria for determining what is low, medium, or high can be found on our website. This, I feel, is maybe of interest to you. There is a growing community of practice in the alternatives assessment world. People and companies across the globe really, are turning to alternatives assessment as a way to find alternatives without jumping to that unknown chemical and then making that uninformed substitution and having to reformulate again and again. It's better to know where a chemical stands on the hazard spectrum before switching to that from another potentially problematic chemical. This growing community of practice includes states and NGOs, so Washington and Maine, California with their Green Chemistry Initiative. It's not on there, but they're now looking heavily into conducting alternatives assessments. Also, Clean Production Action's Green Screen, GC3, the Green Chemistry and Commerce Council. These organizations are all exploring alternatives assessments and using them and developing tools to make them accessible to manufacturers. Additionally, I want to highlight companies such as HP and Nike. They have alternative assessment programs, and PIMFA, which is a European Flame Retardants Trade Association. I just heard, too, that maybe Ford is looking at working with the green screen. So it sounds like the auto industry is starting to get involved here. Oh, and additionally, we do have auto representatives on these alternatives assessments. I should have mentioned that earlier. Okay, quick jump to our Safer Product Labeling program. The DFE label, basically when you see the DFE label on a product, that product has been screened for human health effects, environmental effects, VOC content. We've looked at the packaging. We require auditing of that product, and we are also requiring ingredient disclosure. Our standard basically has whole product requirements, such as pH and synergistic effects. We require product performance testing and that ingredient disclosure that I mentioned. Example is to the right. Additionally, besides the whole product requirements, we go a step further, and we are looking at every chemical in that product, and we are assessing them for health and environmental effects. And the way we do this is unique. We are not comparing all chemicals to each other, but rather we're comparing a surfactant to a surfactant, and we're trying to determine what is the safest surfactant and help the products and help industry choose those safer chemicals. So, for example, we wouldn't compare a chelating agent to a solvent. They're obviously going to have very different modes of action and different profiles. And so we've developed criteria for each of these categories: surfactant, solvents, chelating agents, and fragrances. We also have our master criteria for all other ingredient classes that we have yet to define. We require partnership agreements of 3 years, at the end of which we go through a renewal process with the product manufacturer. And in between, we do 2 audits, either a site visit or a paper audit, depending on the year. I had mentioned that we look at every chemical. We're not just looking at chemicals on lists. We're defining the chemicals not allowed, so those on lists, and obviously any analogs to those that could be problematic. But we're also looking at the chemicals that are allowed. So we're defining what is a safer ingredient. And in our case, if we don't see data for a chemical that could be carcinogenic, we are going to fail that chemical, and it would not be allowed in our product. Now, this is where the magic of DFE happens. We're defining chemicals, safer chemicals, by their functional use class, and we're also promoting the development of safer chemicals. For example, surfactants that haven't previously been in commerce were developed by chemical companies to meet our criteria, and some of those companies are listed there on the bullet. Where these companies additionally, in addition to developing new chemicals, are going one step further and getting the testing on these chemicals done. And often that testing, as you probably know, is very expensive. We also have partnered with an NGO called Green Blue. They have a database of safer chemicals called Clean Ingredients. And do I have a snapshot of it? I don't. But basically, that database is a place for product manufacturers to turn to when they're looking for a safer solvent or a safer surfactant. Here's a snapshot of our growth to date. We have over 2,800 safer products. that we have allowed the use of the DFE label on. We've worked with over 500 manufacturers, and 700 million pounds of safer chemicals have been used per year because of our program. Of those 2,800 safer products, the majority of them are in the I&I product community or product class, so for use in schools and hotels. About 800 of the products are consumer products. There's a broad range of product categories. The next slide will show you more. And I want to point out here at the bottom that we're always looking to expand. We're considering personal care products, lubricants, adhesives, and others. And on the lubricants front, we have made some initial investigations in there, and I would love to talk to you if you have any ideas for other sectors as well. Here's our current sectors. As you can see, there's quite a few, and the graph on the right shows our growth and number of products. And thank you, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions about the alternatives assessment partnerships or the Safer Product Labeling Program.
And this is Tom again. You notice that I had Bridget put her contact information there and not mine, so all the questions can go to Bridget. At least the hard questions can go to Bridget. That concludes our presentation. I'd like to now ask if any of you have any particular questions that we can answer for you at this time. I think we've got about 15 minutes before the hour is up. So does anyone have any questions for me or for Bridget? Don't all ask at once.
Hello, Tom?
Yes.
This is Gary Vague with ERA Environmental Consulting.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. In Bridget's presentation, she referred to a program that Ford was going to join, and it went by pretty quickly. I didn't catch the name of the program.
Oh, sure. Well, this in passing, I heard that perhaps Ford has been talking to the green screen folks.
Green screen, okay.
That's different from DFE. They basically use our criteria, but it's a separate entity.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Bridget. Brian Haney with ERA.
Hi.
The criteria for the DFE label, are those criteria available online, or is that kind of a case-by-case thing? You're looking at a matrix there. It looks like VOC emissions, packaging, all of those things.
For sure. So both the criteria for the alternatives assessment and the criteria for safer product labeling are available on our website. It is epa.gov/DFE, and it's on. We're adding Tom's information to my slide, and then we'll put that up.
Okay, thank you.
I think you might see it there. And basically, they're all on that website. If you have any questions or need more details, feel free to shoot me an email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Going once.
Hi, this is Adam from Avitas, and I was wondering, in terms of the product, have you thought of incorporating anything regarding recycled products or recycled content?
Oh, in fact, we have. So our packaging requirements, we go off of we base it on the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, and we do require some recycled content. Does that answer your question?
Sure. And in terms of the products themselves, I was wondering if if there was any initiative there.
Well, our products are for the most part, chemically intensive products. We haven't gotten into materials too much. There's always the potential to do so, for example, plastics. But for the most part, our products are solutions. So
Oh, that makes sense.
seal paint, for example, or conversion coatings, cleaning products.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Adam. Any other questions?
Tom and Bridget, Gary Vake here again with ERA. I had a question about the batteries in the electric vehicles, EVs. Is there any work being done on, what to do with these batteries once, a vehicle is at end of life?
We actually just released a life cycle assessment on lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. It's also on our site under DFE projects. If you scroll down, you'll see life cycle assessment, and you can find the lithium-ion right underneath there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is good. Bridget's getting all the questions. Any other questions?
That's mostly because we're that bubble on your
That's right.
on your SME slide, the
That's
chemical
right.
question mark.
Little bubble. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon, and again, thank you for CEC for sponsoring this for us. If you do have any questions or comments that you might want to make to Bridget or myself individually, you do have our contact information up there, and feel free to do that. I'm sure we'll be working with Suppliers Partnership and also with CEC to talk about future webinars that we might do. And in fact, let me just sort of lay that out there as an invitation to you on the phone, that if there's a particular area of things that we do here at the agency that you might find of interest, perhaps in our green chemistry or green engineering, sustainable futures, and things of that nature that I think might be appropriate and pertinent to what you do, let us know, and we can work, Bridget and I can work with the right parties to get them on a future webinar. So with that, Jacques and Simonetta, unless you have something else that you want to impart, I think our job is done here.
Okay, Tom, this is Benjamin Teitelbaum.
Hey, Benjamin.
Hi. I just want to thank you and Bridget for the work you've done. It was great. And also just want to mention that we've really got great support also from Jean-François Pilon, who works here in setting up the webinar from our end. So I just want to say that thank you very much to all of you and the participants. And like you said, Tom, if anyone has any further ideas they want to move forward on from Canada, Mexico, or the U.S. or other participants, we'd be happy to hear from it via you and Bridget.
Great. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Okay, I think we are done. Everybody have a nice week and stay